Like, they literally run, put themselves on an island, and now you have paparazzi and dinghies.
I know, in the boats. Harry listening to guided meditation about what the press means, self-validation. And again, that I always say the same phrase, the amateur needs others, the professional self-validate.
Welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb, a community of folks like yourselves who are getting ready and staying ready for their next chapter. We are talking about Chapter 5, or Episode 5, of the Harry and Meghan docuseries on Netflix. I'm with my girl and co-host on Daily Blast Live, Tory Shulman.
Hello.
By now, you know her. We are back at Casa de Erica and Anthony, which just means that we're just shooting at my house in front of this fireplace. And Tori didn't get my cashmere memo.
No.
And so now she's wearing cashmere, so she's going to sweat.
This
and I'm
girl
going to be
is
okay.
on fire.
Yeah. But let's get to it, because we opened to Archie running through a corn maze. And I immediately thought, just a few episodes ago, you talked about the maze and how William was maneuvering his way through the maze, and Harry just opted to jump out of the maze. So when I saw this scene, I was like, dang, she didn't even know that this scene was going to be in here.
No, and also, to be honest, I'm a Liz Garbus fan, the director. Subtle things like this happen. At one point, Archie hits a dead end, and he goes, oh no, dead end. And then he finds another way out and finds his mom, and I'm like, what a metaphor for the whole situation.
Well, we see Archie, obviously, he's little. Meghan's reflecting on her childhood, saying that she felt very alone. She wanted a big family, which I was kind of like thinking like, ooh, are they going to have a lot more children?
Right.
But that was obviously setting up this next episode. So Meghan said, I wasn't just being thrown to the wolves, I was being fed to the wolves. And I thought that that was an important distinction to make, that, you know, being thrown to the wolves is kind of like just leaving someone vulnerable versus actually handing them over for the wolves to attack her.
And I remember episode 1 when I talked about the lamb in the Jurassic Park. It's not even that they fed it to her, they baited it. They did it so... it was just so organized.
Yeah, it was very orchestrated.
Yeah.
So we learn about the closeness of Meghan and her father, that she spoke to him several times a week before the media got involved.
I had no idea.
And that's a lot. I mean, for some people, you know, I know you speak to your dad every day. You know, I speak to my dad, you know, not as often, but it's more so.
You're close with your dad.
Yeah, it's more of a communication style than it is about our affinity for one another. So I thought that that was important, that they were so closely linked. So when Thomas Markle started giving interviews about Meghan and the royal family, which I thought was also just so weird, because he clearly hadn't met the royal family.
Right.
And he clearly hadn't been a part of the most instrumental times of Meghan and Harry's courtship. So the idea that they would just have him, and we said this from the beginning, and I think this really validated what our thoughts about Thomas Markle were, hearing from him, was that he was just a close person to Meghan. He had nothing of value to offer in any of these interviews.
But think about that as a microcosm. He didn't have any details, and they still ate it. It was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he knows the truth. It doesn't matter if he's really met them. He knows her. He's related to her. Go for it.
They share a last name and DNA.
Right. Like, it doesn't have to be real, which is so dangerous and reckless to get information from. Yeah, he had the last name, you know?
Yeah.
But I did find it odd. I don't know if you found it odd how quick. I don't know what happened. We'll never know, right? But Thomas Markle was, like, by all means, somewhat of a good father. I still can't get over what. I guess it's just money.
It's money, power, status. But the thing about it is,
I was really shocked by that.
Those same things were also the demise and the reason for why Harry left his family.
Yeah, same dynamic too, yeah.
It's a struggle for reputation. It's a struggle for the final word.
Yeah, right.
It's a power struggle.
That's a great way of saying final word. That's a lot of the British monarchy. The War of the Roses, the Tudors. I mean, you go all the way back. Elizabeth and Mary. It's interesting.
Well, Meghan was advised by counsel in the monarchy to send a letter to her father.
By the Queen, she wasn't even advised. She said, Prince Philip and the Queen.
So this comes back to bite them every time. Like, there's a saying, paper is forever.
Don't put it in writing.
And
I was thinking the same thing.
She went out of her way to send that letter to someone in LA, who then sent it to someone in Mexico, and she realizes, or to send it to her father in Mexico, and they realize that the letter has been obtained by someone outside of her father.
Right.
And now we're in a situation where her words, her very intimate words and feelings to her father are now being published, and portions, large portions, redacted.
Yeah, we're taken out.
By the mail.
Yeah. If you were ever to bring up one example of someone using her voice incorrectly, it was that. Because they changed the whole letter anyway. But yeah, at that point is when I think Harry clicked into being like, oh, her private, like even the private of the privates is being shown. I saw more action and energy coming from him after this.
Yeah.
There seemed to have been like a, whoa, hold on. We're talking, because there's a difference between that and privacy with the royal family, and that crossed a line, I think.
Well, it's interesting that anytime she does as she's told.
Right, she always gets screwed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And punished for it.
Yeah, it's like they set her up.
Exactly.
Put it in writing, put it in writing, put it in writing. Ooh.
And now that she's done it, then no one seemingly wants to help her maneuver this situation. And the idea of legal action. So, of course, your privacy is invaded in this way. And I think that was important because the word privacy, go back to episode 1 and how they were searching for a right to privacy. And I think that this is certainly an example of something that's going way too far.
Yeah, it just crossed the line in such a big way.
And it was illegal.
Yeah, I mean,
no one is disputing what happened was illegal. But it was the risk versus reward, knowing that no one from the royal family was going to be litigious.
Right. I have this written down, actually. Please bear with me. I said this. He said they can't do it. Oh, my dear boy, Harry said about his father, who said, my dear boy, what are you going to do? Change it about the British media? And Harry just said this. I disagreed fundamentally that I couldn't do anything about it. And no one saw a road forward in that way, and he created it.
Exactly, because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting
the same
what
thing.
You're getting.
Say that about my eating the donuts and not working out.
Child, please. So Harry and Meghan decide to do something unprecedented, and they sue the Mail.
They take it to the courts.
Well, what else were they supposed to do?
Eat it. I agree.
I think at that point, you understand that like nothing that you're going to do in any capacity is ever going to be enough.
Oh, ever.
You're never going to be protected.
It's a boundary. Yeah, it's a boundary.
And so they leave. They go to Vancouver Island in 2019, and they chose not to spend Christmas with the Queen. So that's another breaking of protocol.
Traditions. Everything is a little tick, 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 tick. Not going to Sandringham, not going and spending it with the Queen, who, by the way, let's just say Her Majesty seems that was beloved by both of them. I just want to make that somewhat clear. But I loved their first trip at Vancouver Island because he said we did it because it was an island, and it was peace. There was a breath. She said you could take a breath. So that trip was lovely. It did turn, but I was happy to see them have some space.
Yeah, Vancouver Island is such a prestigious place. I've never been. We have friends who live there.
Is it sort of like uppity, the highest of high?
Yeah, it's expensive.
You know, like Van Aspen or
I'm like, yeah, it's really expensive. And I'm just gonna say this. Yeah, I don't know. Anthony, you around? Why haven't we gone to see Neil in Vancouver Island? Neil's been saying we can come. Now I want to go.
You gotta go. Because it looked gorgeous.
It looked gorgeous, and I'm going to be the child with no home training, just like, ooh, this nice.
This looks nice. This is fancy. That's what I did at Vail. Everyone's so bougie. Jeez.
Harry said, well, here you go, 2020, what you got? And I was thinking, never ask what something's got.
Don't.
Because it's not going to be good.
It rhymes with Novid.
It's not going to be good.
No.
Exactly. So the Harry did say that there wasn't a single paparazzi on the island. This is where I'm really also saying, you see the bigger picture. Like they literally run, put themselves on an island, and now you have paparazzi in dinghies.
I know, in the boats.
Like trying to get pictures of like on the water, like
Helicopters.
and you got to think that they have neighbors and stuff. Like so now not only are their space is being invaded.
Oh, it's awful.
It's everyone around them.
You've ruined Vancouver Island in that
Right,
way.
exactly.
Of course, yeah.
So they thought they were going to go to Canada. They thought they were going to continue to serve the Queen. Of course, Canada is a part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, these were the options they were going to do. They're
Right.
like, we got to make some changes.
Yeah. So they were proposing that they would do all of this without public funding and support, because if they weren't receiving tax dollars, then they were private citizens serving the Queen, which takes away everything that anyone has ever said about you are a servant to the people if you aren't being paid by the people.
Yeah, they were going to just remove that part of the equation.
So the question is, why was that not good enough in that moment for the royal family?
I also thought that, because they also said New Zealand, right? They also thought about going to New Zealand, and I thought...
South Africa.
South Africa. And what's weird is, and some of those plans were accepted by the British Empire, by the Queen, and they were like, yeah. But then it switched, and they said no. And I was very surprised, I didn't know if you were, about how eager they were to continue working. When people say they're a traitor or they went against it, every moment they had, they were like, we didn't want to stop working for the Queen.
Right.
There was no time of being like, we didn't want to continue with these dinners and these, they were willing to put the work in.
Yeah.
They over and over said that. I thought that was interesting.
Well, also because the beef was never really with the Queen herself.
Exactly.
It's with the decision makers around, which also goes to show you that the Queen is just, for practical purposes, a figurehead.
I was going to say just like a figurehead. I always wish I could, if I could ask, because at one point he talked about how his grandma just sat there and sort of took it all in and stuff. I wish I could know Queen Elizabeth's thoughts about if she'd wished she had said stop with this racist thing, stop with the conniving, stop with... She seems to have let it, or she seems to have been a backseat passenger to that. And I wonder about that.
Well, I mean, she was quite elderly at this point.
Right.
You know, if you have a team of trusted advisors, which I would assume that she had long-term standing trusted advisors.
Very loyal.
Then there's a reason why you have people around you in order not to make a unilateral decision.
I agree. But then I always think it's a grandma. You know what I mean?
I get that. But I think at what point, obviously, other people in the royal family find it quite easy to take away their title of who they are as a family member versus who they are as a, head of or a part of the monarchy. But I think that's kind of sad and tragic in itself too. There was a part of where Meghan said it's like the colliding of the family versus the family business.
Yeah.
And that goes back to when I asked, doesn't that intro give us this succession vibes?
Yeah, it's the intersection.
I believe that Liz, the documentarian, wanted us to kind of think that.
Oh yeah, it's getting that mindset. The firm is a great way of saying it. It's just get in the mindset of like, you can't have a hug without that meaning something tactfully about something.
So let's get to where Harry speaks to his father and he tells him about his plans.
Yeah.
And his father says, put it in writing.
Yeah. Dude, Erica. And he said it
paper.
he said it so clearly. He said it, yeah.
I
Don't just let us know, put it in writing.
Yeah. When putting things in writing, because paper is forever.
Right.
So I felt like they were alluding, because they never said that Prince Charles at the time.
Right. But they
set
meant
him
it.
up.
They said it, but they said it.
But yes.
They said it by that.
They're allowing you to
make that conclusion.
Exactly.
For sure.
Which isn't a far leap.
No.
So he puts it in writing and then also mentions that they would be willing to relinquish their Sussex titles. And then I know this whole thing makes me so uncomfortable, but that part made me really...
The putting it in writing?
Yes, knowing.
He set up his son. He's just screwed his son. Yeah, 100%. Because if you don't know, like a few days after, it comes out and it's leaked. And the only person who knew that they were willing to give up the Sussex titles, the only person was Charles. They had put it in writing. So he leaked it. He's that guy. And he's now currently king. So it's like he's already been thrown eggs at. It's just, what kind of father does that?
Well, I have a theory on that, but you're listening to
I think I know.
Come Back with Erica Cobb. We are breaking down episode 5 of the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix with my girl Tory Shulman. So my theory on Prince Charles, now King Charles, is he has been waiting his entire life to become king. And I don't think that sun, God, the universe,
Nothing was gonna get in the way.
Nothing. And it's almost like you wait your entire life for something and there's something that's upsetting the balance in that. It's almost like kill or be king. Like it's this situation where you're like, boy, you are not gonna mess this up for me. And I think that he had such tunnel vision about becoming king and not ruining their empire before that happened, that Harry was just a distraction.
It's funny you say that. As soon as you said that, like, no one's gonna get in my way, which I agree with you. The obsession for Charles is there. You see it and you know about it. He's wanted to be king forever, right? And his mom lived a very long time. I wonder if he was triggered, Charles, and this is again speculation, another disruptor. It's another Diana in a way. Do you know what I'm saying? And he knows how to crush a Diana by using the media.
Wow.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, as soon as you said that, he's like, nothing will get in my way. And it's like Mario, when those things pop up and you put him down, it's like, just like her, he had to take him down. And it didn't matter the respect and the love that you'd think would be there from a familiar point of view. It's just weird. I wonder. He saw Diana again, you know?
Think about the Diana connection.
Here's another one. Here's another Spencer. Here's another Spencer trying to take me down. And I'm not going to go there, but I'm just going to put it out there. There's many people. I don't know if I should. I shouldn't do it.
I know what you're going to say. That there's a theory that...
There's a theory. We're not claiming the theory.
Right.
It's just that Prince Harry, if you look, or that Diana was very close to her equestrian teacher, James Hewitt, who has ginger hair, looks a lot like Harry. And so some say, again, this is all just so tea and not real gossip, that he doesn't feel as if he's actually the father. And there's I can betray him because he's not mine. Or he's the spare, right? Like, this is so Star Wars.
Yeah.
Either way, it's messy.
It's very clear that what has always been, like very low rumblings and chatter is actually like very much truth in action when you talk about how disposable
Absolutely.
Harry has
the
always
spare,
been.
again, always. He's the one you can let go. I always see, yeah.
Wow. So, of course, the press runs with the story about them being willing to relinquish their Sussex titles. And the story plays out in public with people saying that they blindsided the Queen
10 minutes
on
before.
Instagram.
Right. Like, and with the prince found out about it 10 minutes before they released no, slow down, no.
I do think that Instagram plays an important role in their lives. Obviously, it's how Harry first saw Meghan.
Yeah.
It's how they
When Harry met Meghan.
It also was the place that they chose to put their statement out, although I firmly believe that the monarchy knew about it far before that. Clearly.
There's no way.
Exactly. But it was their way of being like, in order to get this straight from us, because that's the thing, we see this with media all the time now, as opposed to going through the middleman to get your message out there. People have taken agency over their own narratives by going straight to their own platforms, which can disseminate to, if not just as many people, more, by doing it straight to their feeds.
Yeah.
However, having that statement out on Instagram to the public and what happened behind the scenes in private, I will always believe are two totally different things. I will not believe that they completely blindsided the queen
no way.
and posted it on Instagram before they knew.
There's no
but
way.
I think that that was an important tool.
I agree.
That they used in order to create agency.
And may I say, there are many tools out there. That's a tool in their favor because it's a young person's game.
Yeah.
And they have that over the queen.
And they respect the medium.
Right. They understand it,
Yes.
too. They play with it well. Yeah, I agree with that.
So, of course, they order a meeting after Meghan returned to Canada. So they're in the UK. Meghan returns to Canada, and then they decide to have a meeting, which
when
they
she said that, remember that?
They denied her a seat at the table.
That was harsh, dude. Because even then, I was like, imagine that's you. I'd be outraged.
Oh my gosh.
Like imagine if you're not an outspoken person and your in-laws had a round table discussion about your life and you were not invited. Any human on earth would be like, yo.
And also the stakes, because there are going to be people, and I thought when I was watching that, I thought there are going to be people who are going to say, well, why should she have a seat at the table?
Wow.
She's not royal blood. But technically, if you want to be technical, if you're saying she's not royal blood, their child is.
Yeah, right, sure. Archie sure is.
So whatever decision that Harry makes is going to not only affect her, it's going to affect their child.
And round table is the round table, the knights, the very male, right? That she wasn't invited. It's just all read so misogynistic.
Because to extract her, it's almost like we'll just talk to Harry because he'll have a more level head about it.
Don't F yourself. Like, seriously.
As if he was going to cower to the pressure or come to his, quote, senses about how he felt like she had brainwashed him somehow.
You think he'd be attracted to her if he was going to live that life? Hell no.
No.
He's attracted because she isn't like that. They didn't get it. They didn't get it.
But also that they were complete whole people, independent of each other before they ever came together.
Yeah.
So the idea that he's been brainwashed in some way, it's like he may have been strengthened. He may have
learned some things,
emboldened and learned more.
Right.
He's certainly seen a different side of the world and life. But I don't think that at any point Meghan was manipulating Harry.
I don't think you can.
And that round table really showed that that's what they believed. And I think at the root of this entire discussion is the fundamental inability to understand who these people are and what this is truly all about.
And their relationship.
Yeah.
What their relationship means. And may I just add, what an asset she could have been. There was that part where they were like, what a missed opportunity of missing out on my wife.
Well, you're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. This is episode 5 of the Harry and Meghan recap on Netflix with my girl, Tory Shulman. Okay, so we learned that while they're at that meeting in Sandringham, right?
Sandringham.
Sandringham.
It's very hard. Sandringham.
Okay, what she said. During the round table, he was given 5 options.
5 options.
One was like half in, half out. One was all in, one was all out. And then there were some other options in between all of those things. And we also learned that his brother William screamed and shouted at him. And to me, I thought, well, yeah, he's doing that for the same reason that Prince Charles is willing to just throw you away, because your brother is in line. So I'm trying to think of it in two different ways.
I don't know if I agree with that. I would say this. I agree with Charles, but I think and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like William was like more hurt. Like with Charles, it's ambition. It's that crown. It's like Game of Thrones. I know you've never seen it, which makes you a very self-possessed person, and amazing that you didn't cave to any pressure. But I think with Charles, I agree with you. He's like, get out of my way. With William, I don't know. Maybe this is the fairy tale version of the brothers. But to me, it didn't feel like I'm mad at you for getting in my way. It was, you're betraying what we worked out.
I 1,000,000% disagree with you.
Okay, hit me.
I do think that with William, as much as with Charles, it is about ambition. It is about being an heir to the throne. And the reason why is because we've been given so many examples of William being willing to throw Harry to the British media in order to save himself or Kate. So if he's willing to, the reason why they had to split off, the Fab Four split up in the beginning, was because Harry and William made a pact that they would never do to each other what they saw
happening,
the generation before them doing to each other, by trading stories in order to not end up in the bad light of the media. And Harry didn't do that, and William sold out Harry. So if you're willing to sell out your brother once, aren't you just going to be continuing to sell out your brother, especially when his end game and the stakes are seemingly not as high for him as they are for you?
May I say, and as a devil's advocate, I feel, and maybe again, this is my romanticism, William feels that Harry sold him out.
But how?
Because
at that point?
I think William felt that no matter what, out of everybody in this whole earth, that they would have each other. They both felt that about the other. And Harry felt betrayed by what he left and not having support. But I don't think anyone has looked at, and maybe this is just an interesting point of view, the lens of William, to think my brother didn't stand by me and I could have used my brother.
Okay, that's fair.
But I thought she was going to say it was terrible.
No. I think that's a fair perspective, and we should be trying to at least understand both sides. But I disagree with you, and this is why.
But I'm wrong.
I feel like William, like a lot of older siblings feel,
right,
especially when you are the older sibling that sticks with tradition.
Sure.
Establishment,
sure,
the way mom and dad would want things, and you play by all the rules and you do everything exactly the way that you're supposed to do it, and then you have a younger sibling and they decide that they see the world in a different way, good, bad, indifferent. There is going to be some type of tension from time to time there when they are doing things that, one, you never would have been able. We hear this all the time, like, mom and dad went soft. I never would have been allowed to do this.
Right.
I would have gotten my butt beat if I tried that. But little sister or little brother does it, and like, oh, everything's fine. Oh, that's just how they are. Oh, they're the younger sibling. And you're like, what happened to the discipline? What happened to the rules? And what we're seeing between, in my opinion, these two brothers is like the most like magnified version of that dynamic. And I think that William has a much more animosity towards Harry, especially to that point, than Harry had at that point against him in that way. Because William holds the power. Harry, for all practical purposes, the way that the monarchy saw it, didn't. I also think that the monarchy made a massive mistake in not understanding how this world works, and how when they went to Instagram to post their public statement, that they could continue to do that. They could continue to tell their story on Netflix. They could call on the Oprahs. They could call on the Tyler Perrys. They could do all of these things that were going to really make the voice that has pretty much determined their fate for the past 3 or 4 decades, make it sound like a whisper. And I think everyone missed that. And I particularly think that William feels some type of way about that.
I can understand that. I think both things can be true. I think when you just said that, and I'll end on this, when you said who's the powerful one, I do think that I think the monarchy misunderstood the power of Harry.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think they thought it was all William, and I'm like, if you didn't get it with Diana, you're missing it with Harry. Yeah, they misunderstood that. But those two brothers, that's a Shakespearean tragedy, those two brothers.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we could go on and on about the subtext of those two.
I think the real dig was that the joint statement was sent out saying that it was false that William had bullied Harry and Meghan out of the monarchy without Harry's knowledge.
That was it for him.
They could have just made the statement on William's behalf.
No, they ruined themselves. They shot themselves in the foot.
Right.
Because at that moment, what did we hear Harry say? we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
It wasn't Meghan. It was him. And it was because they said my name, they used my name for the first time without my approval. And they're going to go rogue. If they're going to go rogue, we got to get out of here.
And the interesting thing is, I remember talking about this.
Me too. And I was like,
and we were like, oh my goodness,
me
that's
too.
great.
Like, we bought it.
That's great.
We bought it. I was like, oh, they're brothers. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, right. And he was just like, resolved. We're done.
So basically, out of all of the movements that were made,
Yeah.
Meghan is back home
Doing
at
nothing.
this point
Right.
in Canada. Wait, they're in Canada,
Yes.
right? Yeah, they're still in Canada. She's in Canada. She is. Wait, no, they had already.
Because they had the COVID had to
Oh
happen
yeah,
for them
yeah,
to
yeah.
leave.
Yeah, sorry. We've seen so much Harry and Meghan. I feel like I'm like I lived
Where
this
are
experience.
they?
Yeah, so she's back home, and obviously she's with they have their child, and now they have to make some moves because now the blame is being shifted back on Meghan. And Harry says, how predictable that the press would blame the woman,
Yeah.
Meghan, for the exit. But in fact, it was Harry who made the decision to leave. And he's basically like saying, I'm my own person. I'm my own man. Like, if it weren't my father speaking for me, now it's my brother speaking for me, now it's my wife speaking for me. Y'all made Harry mad.
Yeah, you did. And you also discredited him as a feminist. You forgot what it was when Obama, I remember, said this is what a feminist looks like. Harry is the first feminist of the British monarch. He's not going to allow his wife, the woman, to be blamed. He will not allow it. Would William? Would others? Possibly. Not Harry.
Yeah.
Not Harry.
So Harry
Not
gets
gonna happen.
on. He gets on a platform. It's November 2021. He's in New York City, and he says that it's a small amount of people who are creating a huge amount of disinformation and chaos all around the world, and they're responsible for this hate propaganda. Now, for those of you who do watch Daily Blast Live, Tory and I have been shouting from the rooftops these stats because
It's
quite
incredible.
frankly, it's incredible.
Mind-blowing.
So 114,000 tweets. Take a sip, girl.
I got to take a sip here. Of the hatred and the vitriol, all of that, 70% of that was created, and this is studied by Bot Sentinel, and they look at all these, by only 83 accounts.
Tell it.
83 accounts. Fewer than 100 people were making all of that noise, and they were reaching, Erica,
17 million people. The power of social media can be used for great, amazing things. And
Amazing
it can
things.
also be used for horrific,
very bad.
vile, destructive,
Horrible.
content. And who was at the center
Who was
of
it?
all of this vile content? None other than Samantha Markle.
Bum, bum, bum. I'm sorry.
Yo.
The guy even said, we've seen campaigns of others. These are the people, Bot Sentinel, that studies this. And they said, nowhere have we ever seen a campaign as targeted and as angry and as concentrated, the density in, imagine, 83 people. That's like a high school class. That many people created all of what Britain learned about Meghan Markle.
Samantha, we know, is so obsessed
So hot.
with her stepsister or half-sister, Meghan Markle, that this woman changed her last name
Changed it.
back to Markle after not being a Markle for like over a decade or something like that.
She's no Sparkle Markle.
She's not a Sparkle
She
Markle.
isn't. She's an opportunist.
She actually had her account banned, and she had 12 other
A
accounts.
dozen others in those 83. Fake ones. This is all an angry, it's all Shakespearean.
And the concerted effort, and it was coming from whom?
White suburban housewives. Y'all, we're
Let
angry.
me tell you, I know I get so many people who are like, why does it have to be about race? Because it is.
It's so
It
clear,
is,
you guys.
Okay?
This one
Her
was.
sister, or I'm not even, I
Half-sister.
can't even call her that. This woman who she happens to share a father with
Ugh.
is so obsessed, and probably also in her feelings about the idea that, like, who does Meghan think she is? That's a trope. who all of these women so obsessed that they are spending day and night. Are you getting paid?
Yeah, what do you do? Why?
Does your husband do that well?
Why
that all you doing
bored?
is sitting at home
Hating.
spreading misinformation about a woman you don't even know.
No.
You know how we know you don't know her? Because her own sister don't know her. She don't know that woman. She don't, and my Mariah Carey, I don't know her.
That was so good.
She don't know her. So I thought that this was so full circle.
I know.
We already knew that Samantha, I mean, is touched. That woman is one of the most touched people I've ever seen.
She uses a wheelchair for sympathy. The whole thing is a fraudulent thing. She's the worst of the worst.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When lies are given credibility by journalists and media, it is an abuse of power.
That was lovely.
That was so important because that's what we see. That's who Piers Morgan is.
He is the personification of
He's
that.
the dissemination of misinformation.
Yeah, covered and marinated in some sewer juice.
But also because it's beneficial to him.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a difference between people, because so many people have platforms now. Some people have personal platforms that actually have a greater following than networks or streaming services. But it's the difference between I am going to spread information for my personal profit, misinformation for my personal profit, versus I am going to give my take on something.
Even if it's controversial. It's very different. Very
you
different.
may disagree with me, but I'm not going to I don't gain anything by saying, hey, I believe that Gabrielle Union was mistreated in this situation. Or I believe that Meghan Markle has been thrown to the wolves and that there is a conspiracy against her. There's not money coming into my account because I said that. Quite frankly, I'm going to get paid either way. It's just me giving my opinion from my level of understanding in a way that isn't for profit in that same way. And I hope that people understand the difference between those two things.
So important. So important. Very important. Follow the money. Just follow the money.
So we see them do, they talk about the symbolic annihilation. And if you can destroy people who are symbols of justice, it's a signal to others to stand down. Like, you saw what we did to them. Don't you dare open your mouth.
I wrote that down.
And
that's so
that
funny
hit me so hard because there was a point early on in my career at DBL, and I was just honestly just saying my truth through my level of understanding. And I remember a conversation with my mother, and she said, in such a pure and concerned way, she's like, Erica, I just want you to be careful. Like, she was concerned about me being so honest with my truth. And I said, Mom, I understand what you're saying and I appreciate what you're saying and I absolutely will, but I don't know what else to say other than my truth.
Yeah, you wouldn't know what to speak of, right?
So that's the difference. I understand that what I'm saying may ruffle feathers. It may make people feel some type of way, but it is my responsibility, being afforded the platform that I've been afforded, to speak for myself, people who identify with me, for my ancestors who died to get me here. How dare I? How dare I do that and say nothing?
Right.
And so I think there are just people who feel that way, and I can understand that.
Yeah.
Because it's coming from, to me, I say it's very ancestrally protected, but it's also ancestrally ordered.
And motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that.
So we see them going through meditation, and I thought this was really important. I know that you do a lot of work for mental health.
Yeah, they do guided meditation. All of it is just very modern, holistic. It's just not what you normally see. It's that they're taking the approach that they need to be working on therapy in all different venues. And the one thing we kept hearing is, I never got help, I never got help. And then you see Meghan and Harry listening to guided meditation about what the press means, self-validation. And again, that I always say the same phrase, the amateur needs others, the professional self-validates. And it takes a lot to self-validate after the barrage of what they went through.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I wrote down, when you seek to prove your goodness, you are feeding the bait. And I said, I needed to hear that. Like, especially early on, I had never been in a situation where I was speaking and it was being consumed by so many different people on so many different platforms from so many different walks of life.
Right.
And I did feel a need to be like, but this is who I am.
Right.
But I'm really just, I'm just this, like, you just happen to find me. Like, it was this thing where it's like, just let them know. Let them, like, I'm just a girl from the west side of Chicago
Right.
who had this dream, and I followed this path and it landed me here. And then 20 years later, I'm on your Instagram feed.
Right, right.
Like, that's just how it happened. There was no plan
I
for
know.
that. So I thought I really needed to hear that. I think we all need to hear that. Anyone who has a platform needs to hear that.
Yeah, especially in terms of, let's just be honest, with like Donald Trump and like, I don't know, grifting, if may I say, or cons. Just be very aware of where your intention should go and where should they come from, because they can be stolen quite quickly without your knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. I am with my girl, Tory Shulman. We are breaking down and wrapping up episode 5 of Harry and Meghan on Netflix. So I thought that as they decided that they were going to leave, Meghan likens what happened to her and Harry as she said, it's when a guy starts dating a girl and his buddies are upset because they feel like he's being taken away from them. And she likens that to the royal family because the blame fell on her. And I thought that was also taking agency again. But then they go back because they're leaving and they have a final week. And she decides that she is going to wear color.
I was going to say,
you've
she
been
wears
bringing
color!
up all these color conversations. So, yeah, how did you feel
She's
about?
thoughtful. She understands fashion. And may I say who else understood fashion in this whole thing? We talk about a revenge dress. Diana understood fashion and what it meant. So she says, I blended in, and when it came for my final week, I was a rainbow. And it was bright turquoises, and it was yellows, and it was greens, and it was pinks, and she got to be her own self. And there was a real smile you could see that came from her. But again, someone who understands the psychology of fashion, I thought, just like Diana.
Yeah.
Just like her.
And also being like, hey, if I'm going to go out, I'm
going
go
out with a bang.
big.
Yeah, I agree.
And there was so much joy.
With
And I
those
also,
big color. Sorry, I was excited.
No, I also appreciated that she was honest, that she was nervous about what the reception from people would be.
Yes.
And she was met with only joy and admiration
and love. And that's why when we hear Piers Morgan today say she's going to be met with what? A sea of boos. I say you are misrepresenting. You're speaking for 83 people or the 83 accounts. You are missing that the people love them. And had you picked up on that, man, could you have succeeded.
Yeah.
But you threw out the baby with the bathwater.
And no, absolutely. And the juxtaposition between Harry and Meghan and their joy and the coldness of other members of the royal family, which the press picked up on as well.
Everybody does. I also thought they're never alone. And maybe they saw that they're always together. And I'm a codependent person, so I appreciated that. I really did.
You're like, that's my type of
my type of
relationship.
24/7, man. 24/7.
Well, this brought me to tears when Meghan had to leave Harry behind in the UK.
Yeah.
And she's flying back, and she said the crew captain on the plane.
Oh my God,
knelt and took his hat off and said, we appreciate everything you did for our country.
Yeah.
I mean,
she just needed one person to say it.
And I'm sure she had many, but like that flight back.
Her exodus.
To
her freedom
have
flight,
that.
right?
And so she said she collapsed when she landed with the security guards and cried. And she said she tried so hard, and he validated that. And I thought, we hear from one of the journalists who said that 2.5 billion, mainly black and brown people,
this was my
are in the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
And back to episode 1, where I said people identified with her, and when they threw her away, they threw them away. And so now that Grenada's breaking ranks,
Barbados
made decisions to replace the
Jamaica's
queen.
looking into it.
58% of Jamaicans feel that the queen should be removed.
Yeah.
But I will say this as we wrap, and I know it might be controversial. I do think that accepting and protecting Meghan in the royal family would have gone very far for the sentiment about the royal family. But I do not think that it would have changed people's feelings about wanting to exit the Commonwealth. I think that it's just that time for change for people.
I agree with you. I don't think independence. I think any country at some point blossoms and wants their independence. But the line that got me was that 2.5 billion people in the Commonwealth, and what does she look like? She looks like them.
Yeah.
Are you an idiot?
Well,
you're supposed to be a master of the media, and you're not picking up on here's your person?
They're playing a game that started 30 years ago. But I do want to, I want to just go back to what you said, and I know what you meant, but I want to be very clear about this. These countries, Grenada, Grenada, I don't want to mispronounce it, Barbados, Jamaica, they didn't blossom. What it is to me is that, much like I was talking about the responsibility to the ancestors, I do think that there is a movement that people are now, this generation is understanding that we, a black and brown country, do not need to be ruled by this predominantly white country.
savior type of situation.
It would be no different than the idea of we had slavery in this country. How many black people are still under the rule of the families that had enslaved them?
Sure, generationally.
That's how it feels to me.
Do you think Meghan was the catalyst? Seeing her,
honestly, I don't
know if they had anything to do with the other.
I don't think it mattered.
Okay. That's fair.
I don't, but it would have gone better.
Right.
It would have gone better.
The transition would have been
exactly.
smoother. Yeah.
So as we wrap, they have removed security and given them less than 3 weeks' notice when the press is hunting and hounding them. Harry said, you got to do what any husband and father would do, and that's get the hell out of there. And that concludes episode 5 of Harry and Meghan on Netflix. Recap with my girl, Tory Shulman. Tory, tell the people where to find you.
At I am Tory Shulman. It's real Jewy. It's SHULMAN. No C. I need the followers.
Get it right. And I'm at Erica Cobb on all platforms. Of course, you can get the full podcast on comeback.tv/podcast. Thanks for listening.